Hi and welcome back. I'm Tracey Eakin.
And I'm Graettinger.
And today we're going to make one of my family's favorites, Chickpea Burgers.
Sounds good.
So it just takes my trusty little Oscar food processor. I put in a can of chickpeas. I prefer canned just because I have never been organized enough to make them from scratch.
Well, they're very convenient.
But I do try to always make sure that I get BPA-free cans. And Eden was one of the first companies to make cans that do not spray that carcinogenic lining inside their cans. And I also look for the salt-free because you can always salt at the dinner table.
Right.
So let me just pulse these.
Okay, so
Very
you're not
simple.
mashing them into a paste, you're just chopping them finely.
Just pulsing them. So I'll take this out and pass it over to you.
Thank you. I'll do the mixing for us today, huh? They smell so good already.
Aren't chickpeas one of your favorites?
Oh, they are. My husband and I love chickpeas. We also have canned chickpeas on hand. They're really convenient. When you're running out of time or you haven't planned ahead to cook them from the dry state, it's just really easy to pull them off the pantry shelf. But we do cook them from dry a lot too. Just a bag of chickpeas, rinse them off, throw them in a slow cooker, cover them with about 2 inches of water, and in about 5 or 6 hours on high, not only are they going to taste delicious, but the whole kitchen is going to smell so good.
And I can't imagine what chickpeas cooking smells like.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to come over to your house.
Yes, we will have to do that. It's fantastic.
And then I've got 1 onion, and you can cut it by hand, but I don't like to cry, so I
do that too.
I put it in wedges, and I just let the machine do it. And I like to kind of make these a little bit smaller so that they're not too prominent in the patty.
Do you have a preference for a type of onion that you like? I see you're using white.
I go for the sweet onions.
Okay.
I'm going to take the big piece out so that it's not overpowering the burger. But the only reason I do that is I think that I cry less. They seem to be less strong, less pungent. So
that's good. I know there are a lot of folks out there that cry when they slice onions.
What kind do you use? Any in particular?
I like red onions. I think they have a slightly mellower flavor, and they always look pretty in dishes too.
And one thing that I did notice, Mary McDougall and her daughter Heather they claim, if you keep your mouth closed, which obviously we're not doing right now, keep your mouth closed, you don't talk, you breathe through your nose from the time you cut the onion until you use it, that you won't cry.
All right, I'll try that because my eyes are already starting to tear up a little bit just from
hurry up
standing over the bowl of the onion.
Okay, so that's all the onions.
Nice.
Sorry that you're going to have to stand there while... Whoops.
This is going to be very flavorful, these onions.
And then I guess if you want to mix that as we're...
Yeah, I'll do that.
Then it calls for, I believe, a 1/4 cup of parsley. Again, I used to use either a knife or scissors, and then I thought I'm just going to throw it into the Oscar and let the Oscar do it.
Oscar. Good to have Oscar in the kitchen.
And a wonderful...
The eyes are starting to water.
Mine too. Yours are probably worse because you're closer. Okay, so Oscar's job is done.
All right.
These are really easy to make on a weeknight because all of the time-consuming cutting and chopping and mincing is all done by Oscar, and then it's just adding some spices, mixing it.
Parsley smells so good. I love parsley. Do you grow any at home?
No, but I'd like to.
Yeah, it's a
On my
very
list.
easy plant to grow, at least in our area, in the Mid-Atlantic region.
And if you'd like, I could put these in as your start.
Please.
So what do we have here? We
We have cumin.
Okay. Would this be the coriander?
That would be the coriander. Boy, does that smell good. Fragrant.
Pepper.
Pepper.
Cayenne pepper.
A little spiciness to it. So what do we have here?
2 tablespoons of tahini.
And tahini is just ground sesame seeds. It has a consistency of a thin peanut butter. It doesn't taste like peanut butter.
Oh, the flavor is just incredible.
Wonderful, isn't it?
So the lemon juice, and then you're saying the baking.
A little lemon juice.
It's great to have somebody that knows why we're putting in the ingredients.
And
the baking
powder.
And I always go for the aluminum-free baking powder.
Oh, me too, me too. Aluminum-free is the way to go.
We don't want any excess metals accumulating in our brain and adding to an Alzheimer's risk.
All right. Last ingredient.
And then we put in these as a binder to help the patties stay together.
Now these are just rolled oats. They're not instant oats. Instant oats are a little less nutritionally dense than regular rolled oats, so we're going to use these.
And I have to admit, I've altered the original recipe that I used to use. It would call for breadcrumbs. And in an interest to try and make this a more whole food recipe, Caroline suggested using the rolled oats.
And you know, it's difficult to find breadcrumbs that don't have a lot of other ingredients in it. Some of them even have whey. There's certainly usually oil of some sort in there. You can find panko breadcrumbs, which is a very particular style of baking bread that makes them really crispy and crunchy. And those you can find. I believe the Emerald brand does have salt, but it doesn't have a lot of other strange ingredients.
And I found Progresso, but it has, I believe, added oil and sugar.
Okay.
So we're just tweaking it a little bit. Should I go ahead and add it?
Please, yeah.
I end up using the whole cup anyway, even though the recipe says just add until they hold together.
Okay. So we'll smush it together and see.
Thank you so much for doing the hard work.
Oh,
mixing it all.
So it seems to be holding together, but what we should probably do is let it sit here for a couple of minutes.
Okay. Oh, and that's what you did tell me. If we're going to use the oatmeal instead of the breadcrumbs, to just let it sit for a little bit so that it can absorb the liquid.
Right.
Okay. Do you want me just to leave this off?
I think we're good.
Okay. All right, so now we're ready for the fun part. If you like to get your hands like in action. So this is usually what I'll do. This recipe is supposed to make about 8 burgers.
Okay.
Sometimes it'll make 7 if I make them a little bit thicker. So.
Okay. Now you've made this in the past with breadcrumbs, and today we've used oats. So how does this feel?
It's holding together a little bit less than the breadcrumbs, but definitely not like some veggie burgers that I've had that just completely fall apart.
Okay. You know, we were talking about chickpeas earlier, and one of the things I love about legumes in general, but chickpeas I think in particular, is how versatile they are. You can have chickpeas in a breakfast burrito. It's a lovely flavor. And we make a mock egg salad and a mock tuna salad out of chickpeas for sandwiches. They go beautifully in casseroles and soups and stews. I really enjoy chickpeas a lot. And did you know that chickpeas are a complete protein?
I did not.
I just looked that up yesterday.
I know that quinoa is a complete protein, but I had not heard about chickpeas, which is good.
Honestly, I don't concern myself with protein on this diet because we've been doing it for so long. We know we get tons of protein. But I know there are folks out there who are just starting out and are wondering, well, where do I get my protein? Legumes of all kinds are a beautiful source of protein.
And probably the best source of fiber when you're talking about sheer grams.
Fabulous source of fiber.
And if you are ever concerned, if you even just track your protein for the day, I've done it just as an experiment to kind of put people's concerns to rest. And almost every day, I'm over what the recommended protein is. So
easy. So these look lovely.
Thank you.
They smell good too. So we put these in the oven at what temperature?
400 degrees, about 10 to 12 minutes on each side. And the browning occurs on the side that's touching the non-stick baking sheet, which is another good point. If you don't have a non-stick baking sheet, you can just put a piece of parchment paper, and that way you don't have to oil it or grease it. But you'll notice after the 10 to 12 minutes when you flip it, that the brown side is underneath. So if you're looking at it like, oh my gosh, it's not browning, it's not cooking, it is.
Okay,
you
great.
just don't know it.
Let's put it in the oven. They look beautiful, Tracy.
And they smell delicious. Although I do notice that they are not holding together quite as well as the last time I tried it, substituting the breadcrumbs with the oats, what I had done before is I had taken the oatmeal and I had ground it in my food processor until it was a breadcrumb-like consistency.
Okay.
So I don't know, I think if we tried it like that, they might hold together better.
Okay. Another alternative, maybe if you don't want to grind the oats, is to add a little moisture to the mixture. That way the oats might absorb the water, or some of the bean juice even from the can.
Okay.
Adding a little more nutrition to it too. So experiment a little bit, see if you want to grind up the oats or add a little more moisture to them. I think they'll probably hold together nicely. Huh?
Perfectly. Look how colorful.
Beautiful.
Let's enjoy.
Okay. So these are just our sweet potatoes, rinsed, sliced into little wedges. You can see that on our baking sheet. It happens to be a non-stick baking sheet. If you don't have a non-stick baking sheet, put down a sheet of parchment paper and it'll come out really nicely. They won't stick to the pan. So we just pop it in the oven, preheated to 375, and bake for about 45 minutes.